Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan C.P. Steele, and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. So, hello and welcome to a whole new month. And it's actually going to be a special month. We're going to get into that here in a minute. It's going to be a special month here on the channel. But I, first and foremost, want to go through a quick week in Bryan. It's been a good week. It's been a good week. Got some gaming in. Got to play playing a new game on my Xbox, State of Decay 2. It's a zombie survival, kind of Walking Dead-ish, but with not one bite automatically kills you kind of zombies. Having fun with that. Been still playing some Dark Alliance with my kid. Got to play in our Curse of Strahd game, which had a sad moment where I'm not going to say that it was because we weren't fully staffed, because that kind of puts blame on people. You should have been there for game. That. I'm not saying that. But we did have a character who went into death saves, and there were healers nearby, myself included. And I guess I just was never... It was never made apparent to me that he was not just unconscious, he was legitimately dying. And we lost a character. And despite being, I think we're 6th or 7th level at this point, maybe higher, 8th or 9th level. I mean, we're getting up there in level, and we don't have the resources to bring him back. So the character is getting replaced. In fact, actually, he was replaced before the end of the end of the session. But it was definitely one of those situations where I wish we would have had a full contingent of players, and also perhaps some of the role play being done could have been alluded to a little bit more mechanical in nature in order to possibly spare those characters' life. But it is what it is, and that player had, it happens. It's a Ravenloft game. People die. And we met the new character, and then we met an NPC. I don't know. So I don't, spoilers for Curse of Strahd. There is a room that you meet that you get into, and there's a lich. There's a lich inside. There's no question it's a lich, and he is unhelpful, but he is also not necessarily immediately hostile, and it never fails to surprise me when players play their character as, I'm fearless, I will run into anything, I will destroy all my enemies, everything that is evil must die. And then when you put an actual villain in front of them, or an actual monster in front of them that is probably a little bit out of their league, they change their tune, and they are, oh no, he hasn't been doing anything wrong, we should just leave him be, we should just, we couldn't possibly defeat him, so let's not do anything about that. It is what it is. I understand people don't want to lose their characters. They don't want to throw into a meat grinder, especially when you're low on resources and things. And there's nothing wrong with running away from a fight. There's nothing wrong with retreating and coming back. Or, hell, there's nothing wrong with just avoiding a combat. But it's the way, in one scene you are a fearless berserker that will kill anything that stands in your way, and in the next scene you're like, maybe this one's just a little too strong. That sounds very opportunistic as a character, and it kind of deflates the heroism in that guy if the only combats that you're willing to run headlong into are the ones you can win. Alright. That's been said. So I've got my door open again in the studio because the new kitten is no longer in the kennel, and is now free roaming. And one of our dogs, which, if he is... Oh, he's not here. is not listened for. There may be a quick pause for me to go reprimand one of my canines, because this one, Bear, come here, buddy. Let's see if you can see. Here, can you see the? Oh, come over on this side. Come here, buddy. This guy. This is the Barry. Let's see if you can. You know what? I'm gonna just move the camera so you can see him. This is Barry. Barry Allen, fastest dog alive. He's very interested in the new kitten. They're actually getting along. He hasn't gotten into too many nose bops, but he is kind of a doggy-shaped missile, and will sometimes try to love the kitty too hard. Isn't that right? I love you. All right. Be on your way. But I've got to leave the door open in case there are dog things. I also just kind of screwed up the... There we go. All right, so that's honestly my game stuff. Personally, I'm still sitting right around 55 pounds lost. Haven't kind of bridged that gap yet. But you know what? I'm not gaining either, and that is... Even that is a is a step in the right direction from what I used to be. I used to be in the situation where it's like, oh, my diet has stopped working. I can just give up and then immediately put all the way back on. So the fact that I'm slowly going forward and not just immediately backsliding, super happy about that. And then let's see, what else? I keep looking over to my painting area. I've got some commission painting that I'm working on. Almost done with the commission for the company who's going to be using these models at Adepticon. Speaking of Adepticon, right around the corner. While I'm not going to Adepticon, except for one day just for business meetings and stuff, it falls in the same weekend as GaryCon, and GaryCon, not only is it more work-related for me right now as a whole, but it is also where a couple of friends of ours are getting married, having a marriage celebration ceremony, and Natalie and I were invited, so GaryCon took precedence this year, and I'm hoping, if you're listening out there, GaryCon and Adepticon, stop putting these on the same weekend. I want to go to both of these, and it kills me that I can't. So, I mean, I am going to both, but I want to be able to enjoy both of them and not have both of them be whirlwind work trips, because that's what it ends up happening. But yeah, it's doing some painting, some commission painting, getting not really anything for myself done at the moment. All commission stuff. Work. Speaking of work, officially had a fantastic meeting with the team that are putting together the next Essence 20 book that we're working on, which obviously I can't talk about that just yet, but it's gonna be very useful, and I think it's gonna end up being in just about every player in Game Master's wheelhouse. They're gonna probably want a copy of this nearby when we get this out. Last week we released through Renegade, we released a kind of guide to making threats, and a guide to making threats in Power Rangers, and a kind of a general errata, general FAQ anyway, for the Power Rangers main rulebook. I think it's going over well. I think that it's solving a lot of the problems that we were having. Obviously, an official errata to fix typos and nomenclature flips and things like that. That's coming down the pipe. That's going to be something that goes into like the actual like PDFs and into the new printings of books and things like that. But the initial problems that we solved seem to be doing pretty well. I mean, there's always still questions, and new stuff pops up all the time with any game. Any anything in this industry. I was explaining to actually gamers recently. Oh yeah, because I last week I sat in only for like an hour, but I sat in on a fans Power Rangers game on Roll20, just to listen in and kind of answer any questions that might pop up, but just to honestly just to enjoy people playing the game. And that's, I wasn't commenting, I didn't ask to play, I wasn't like, they make me an NPC. I just was basically a fly on the wall, and it really does remind me why we do the things we do, because I get to see people actually enjoying the game, ignoring the typos, the GM adapting to things that they're supposed to be adapting to, and it's awesome. And it's neat to see their creativity. It inspires me, and as a designer, when I see the players enjoying themselves. It's just all around. It's just all around a good thing. Every day, Monday through Friday, I've been spending an hour on the Facebook and the Renegade Facebook and Discord pages, answering questions about SS20 and Power Rangers, which it's also turned into a little bit of a conversation, back and forth. People come up with maybe not necessarily rules questions, but something that they would like an opinion on, or hey, how would you handle this? You're the one that made the system. Or you were part of the team that made the system. How would you handle this? And so it's neat. I really like interacting with the people, with the fans and the readers. Yeah, I mean, you can't help everybody always. There's always going to be someone who the answer is not good enough, or it doesn't answer, or the answer doesn't help what they were hoping was the answer. There's always going to be people that say, say, that this is not how we run it at my table, and we're going to continue running it this way, and that's fine. Again, I've said, how many times have I said this? Rule number one should always be have fun. If you're having fun, if your group is having fun, and everyone walks away from the game table wanting to play more, then you're doing it right. I'm not going to come charging into your house and knock the dice out of your hand and go, you're not doing it right. Unless you ask me to. Oh, hey, kitty. No. The kitten came to visit. Oh, you can see her. That's Nura. She's all kind of bleached out of the window light, but she might try and jump up on me. She has become, in the last, after being released from the kennel, she has become very clingy. If you get within a foot of her on a raised surface, you will have a Velcro cat attached to you. Dunk. But yeah, so it's I've been spending time over there just answering questions and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, no one's, if you ask me to come to your table to tell you how the rules were intended, or tell you how the rules actually function, then yes, I'm going to tell you how this works. But just like, if you just invite me to listen and you don't ask me any questions, I'm just gonna sit back and I'm gonna kick back, and I'm gonna enjoy people. I'm gonna enjoy people enjoying the game. That's what happened. But so I got to do that once this week, which was a lot of fun. I've obviously been working hard on stuff. One of the big shining lights from this last week is Warzone Eternal getting some press. So last weekend, Shoshi from Shoshi's Magnificent Miniature Painting, she is an amazing minis painter, just fantastic in every regard. Also an amazing person. But 2 weeks ago, earlier last week, I'm not sure exactly when, she revealed that she was working on the studio models for Warzone Eternal. And while this was not only awesome news, because Shoshi's amazing, but it also it prompted me to go poke Alex, my boss over at Resnova, my supervisor at Resnova on the Warzone project. It prompted me to go poke him, because I was not aware we are that far along. I didn't know there were Razides already being, or as he pronounces, Razid. I always said Razide. And you know, seeing the golden lion painted, you know, like these are things that like super say. That's my other dog making groany sounds. He got his shots yesterday, and he's kind of sore, so you may hear that too. Um, but yeah. So seeing these models being painted, and then Shoshi did a live stream on YouTube, uh, showing her painting the Razide, Razid, whatever, our new sculpt, and this was, aside from seeing the digital version, this was the first time I got to see the actual models like in the flesh in the plastic. And I was super impressed. I love the way it looks. The Razide was always one of my favorite Dark Legion models from back in the day. It's so iconic, um, and weird. Like it's simple but scary. And like if you saw one of these things stomping down the street carrying this, you know, the Nazgaroth, you know, heavy machine gun, uh, I would freak. I'd be like, oh my god, that thing's here to destroy our entire town. It was very cool to see it painted. Well, that sparked between that and Dan Morrison's. I'm 90% sure it is Dan Morrison. Um, seeing more of his kind of flow and ink line style art from the book, really have gotten people talking about Warzone Eternal, and we haven't even officially told everybody when the Kickstarter is going to be. Alex hasn't, you know, there's a very broad window in the next couple of months, and like aside from playtesters and people who have listened to us talk about the system in progress, it's not even really widely known yet. So there's a whole bunch of people that suddenly were paying attention, and the Warzone Eternal Facebook group is growing by leaps and bounds. I want to say it's at over 1,200 members at this point for a game that's not even out, a game that hasn't even been previewed, and on top of that, the folks at On Tabletop, formerly known as Beasts of War, if you are familiar with that company, that channel, they put out an article, unprompted by Resnova or myself, about the art and the painting and basically everything I just told you, but went a little further deep into it, and there were people in that article, that thread, that are that have specifically, they were like, oh my god, I love Warzone, I didn't know this was coming back. So a ton of people have come over from that article to the Facebook page, and it's impressive, man. Like, I'm excited to be a part of that, to know that my design is going to get this kind of attention, and we haven't even really officially announced it yet, like on the official, like on media sites and stuff. It's all just been word of mouth and the occasional, you know, podcast or my goofy show. It is very satisfying, and so I'm gonna let you in a little secret. So Alex, you stop listening. Shh, I'm telling secrets. When we first released the digital work in progress for the Blood Beret, there was a lot of negativity on the Facebook page. There's a lot of the internet hyperbole. There's a lot of armchair reviewing, and honestly, there were even some critiques that were good, and then there were some critiques that were just flatly wrong. And I know opinions, you know, can't technically be wrong, but when someone says that's the wrong armor or that's the wrong knee pads or whatever, and you can literally point out to them the source they came from, they're wrong. But either way, it was a definite down spike in morale on this side of the screen. And I remember having a conversation with Alex, and Alex was like, I'm he was deflated. You know, you hope to put something out there for someone to be super excited about, and people to, you know, grab that flag and run with it, and when the response is the opposite, it can be really disheartening. It can make our jobs very hard to do. You get stuck in that imposter syndrome. You get stuck in that head in your head that says, "Why am I even doing this if everyone's going to hate it?" And I remember having that conversation with Alex, and basically being like, it's a hiccup in the it's a bump in the road. We know that this product is going to be good. We know these minis are going to be great. We know that the work in progress that they're seeing is not done. It's still being honed. Tom is not done with it. And seeing all of this positivity out of this last week from Warzone has been huge. It's been great to I immediately when things started blowing up and on tabletop covered us without even asking. I sent a message over to Alex and was like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" I was like, "You feeling better now?" And we're both like, "Okay, this is doing good. This is a real thing. This is going to be bigger, and this is going to be a solid. I think Res Nova is going to leave a heck of a footprint with Warzone Eternal, and I think that it's going to open up some doors for some other things that they may be able to get into. So, telling you, great stuff, and I'm super looking forward to more news, more stuff, more things coming out, and it has definitely inspired me to get. I only have 7,000 or 8,000 more words left to write for the main rule book as far as like lore and stuff goes. So it has definitely inspired me to get working on that. So a lot of my after hour writing has been diving into Warzone lore and making sure that I am covering things as best I can. So super psyched there. All right, you know what? Let's talk about. Let's talk about one thing before we get into the meat of the matter. The February comment raffle, and I am going to silence real quick. I need to silence something because it's gonna keep beeping, and that's gonna make me crazy. So we're gonna go ahead and just silence that. Yep, you're all shushed up now. All right, cool. I don't even know if you guys could hear that or not, but I could. It was making me crazy. So I silenced that background window, and let's move on. So February Power Rangers month comment raffle. I had promised that the comment raffle prize normally is like a little care package of stuff from the studio that I put together and I send to somebody. Speaking of which, Calamari, you still have not claimed your January prize. If you do not claim your January prize and give me your address to send this to you, by probably the end of March, I'm gonna have to I'll have to pick another raffle winner from January. So please email me. Give me your address, bud. All right. But so February said what we're gonna do is you will be the winner of the February Power Rangers themed raffle contest will be the basis of an NPC that I build for a future product. It might be a little while, seeing what my Renegade schedule has looked like as far as like when I'm going to be available to create said character, but it is still something that I want to do. And regardless, whoever ends up winning, I mean, I know who won. I already did the drawing. Whoever ends up winning this, I will contact them and we'll work something out as far as like how you want to do this, what you want your NPC to be like, what you want the name to be NPC, that sort of thing. But regardless, you'll know in the back of your head, you'll know that in this product there's this guy who is loosely based on your idea. So pretty cool. And the winner of the February. It's like a glamour version of February. February comment raffle is. I'm gonna say this because I think I know how this is supposed to be. I think it is Sloop for Life. like maybe like a sailing sloop. I don't know. It's SLUP4, the numeral 4, LIFE. Commented in episode 131, and that was the random comment that got pulled up to win the February Power Rangers prize. So after this video comes out, I will reply to that comment to have them get in touch with me so we can work out how that's going to work. Congratulations! Glad that you were here to comment, like, and subscribe. Now, let's talk about March. Let's talk about my dog's collar. Let's talk about March. You'll note today's episode was called The March to Conquest, and the thumbnail was that picture of a Conquest starter box for Conquest, the Last Argument of Kings. Well, me and my local friends have really started kind of sinking our teeth into Conquest lately, and they have a lot of really cool stuff going on as far as a game and as a company. Parabellum, they're taking that game places, especially this month. We're getting a brand new faction. There's going to be a preview involved. I'm telling you. Oh, and I got a cat yelling at me. Man, I have too many animals in this house to be filming with the door open. There's a new faction coming. We know there's other new factions coming too, but like we actually are getting like the army list and the stat lines for the new for one of the new ones coming soon. It is going to be it's going to be a big month for Conquest, and so I asked Leandros over at Parabellum, one of the mains for Conquest, if I could devote my show to Conquest: Last Argument of Kings for the for the month of March, making an event out of it and making it something special. They were absolutely on board. They thought that it was great, and not only that, but I've got something special to talk about towards the end of the episode. So my show Tales from a Professional Nerd is going to be devoted to the March to Conquest this month, for the month of March. We're going to cover today. We're going to do some kind of rough overview stuff, and then we're going to start digging into the factions. Now, I do know that I have some stuff on order that should be hopefully be in by the end of the month, and I'll be able to maybe do some unboxing of some product. That would be pretty cool. But more than anything, what I am extremely excited to talk to you about is I have a special comment raffle for this month, and it's not even once, it is 4 times, one for each March to Conquest episode in the month of March. Now you might say, wait a minute, Brian, there are 5 Fridays in March. Actually there isn't, because the first is this one. Yeah, never mind. So there are four episodes for March to Conquest. Each one's going to cover a different topic. We'll dig in deep. If I get a chance to do some unboxing, I will. But I really want to spend at least half hour, 45 minutes on each one of these episodes talking about the game, getting you guys excited about the factions, about whether or not we get any games played. I'm going to try and get some games played between here and there. March is a very busy month for me. But the goal is to make sure that we show you how cool of a game this is, and get you guys talking about it, and hopefully commenting below, because every episode, every week in March to Conquest, I am going to be giving away a promo code given to me by Parabellum, that gives you a free elite They're for one of the armies. It is one of the armies. We haven't got into the factions yet. One of the armies is called the Spires. They're very popular, very scary, big like monster bug faction kind of thing. And one of their most famous units, like when you look at like the painted armies, the ones that stand out are the brute drones, and they're these big like monster-sized ogre dudes that have like hard shells and huge like weapon hands, and they're very very cool. And Parabellum is um, giving me product codes for you to use. Whoever is the raffle winner gets to each week. I'm going to do a different raffle winner for every episode. Gets to use that code when they make an e-store, an e-shop sale, a purchase on the Parabellum eShop. They throw in that code, and they get free brute drones. Now I know what you're saying is, what if I'm not a Spires player? You know what? If you're not a Spires player, still use this. These boxes are they're good material for, you know, find out what, you know, what faction you want to play, and if you're a local Spires player, you know, oh, you're playing 100 Kingdoms, buy me a thing of cavalry. Here you can have, I'll trade you these brutes for this cavalry. Whatever the case may be, but I think it's very cool for Parabellum to give me access to these codes in the first place. And while they are not officially sponsoring me in any way, they are wanting to help out with getting you guys, getting the viewers excited about Conquest and where things are going. So, now that we've said that, now that we're past that, let's talk about Conquest, the last argument of kings. So there are actually two versions of Conquest that Parabellum sells. There's Conquest, the last argument of kings, which is the actual rank and file armies fighting against one another, large units, and then there is Conquest First Blood, which is a skirmish game where you are taking individual, or just a handful of individual models, and you're fighting against each other that way. So it is the difference between an army and a handful of heroes, or a handful of individuals fighting against each other. I do not play First Blood. I have not, or let me rephrase that. I have not yet played First Blood. I have played Last Argument several times, and I really enjoy it a great deal. It is a fun game. While sometimes it might not feel that way at that exact moment, it is a very well balanced game. I'll get into what I meant by that when we get a little deeper into the discussion today. And as a storyline, as a world, their lore is on their website, and it's interesting. It's definitely different. It's not your run of the mill hardcore fantasy. It is high magic, high fantasy, but it has just enough of a kind of a weird fantasy vibe that you don't feel like you're just playing another Lord of the Rings clone. So before I go on into what I like about the game and kind of the general overview of how the game works and what it stands for, I pulled up the very base. It is a very basic. This is the overview of the world itself, the world of Conquest. And I am going to go ahead and just read it straight off of their website. So that way I don't screw anything up and I'm not paraphrasing anything. You'll actually know exactly what I'm talking about. And now, mind you, this is the setting that Conquest Last Argument takes place. More than 6 centuries have passed since the fall changed Ea. And again, so they are, I believe they're a Polish company or a Greek company. Greek company, I think. Keep in mind that some of the pronunciations, there is no pronunciation guide, there is no I have not heard from them how things would be said, so I'm going to use my best guess based on the phonetics and based on the grammar marks and such. But if for some reason I say something wrong and you're like, on this one podcast that I listened to and I heard this, it's said this way, let me know in the comments, but be nice. All right. More than 6 centuries have passed since the fall changed Ea. Fall, capital F. Humanity struggles to rebuild after that cataclysm and the long winter, capital L, capital W, that followed. With the hollow throne empty, the 100 Kingdoms remain embroiled in internecine warfare, as the nobility covets the remnants of the empire, while the church grinds its teeth at the weakened orders. Orders with a capital O, so the knightly orders. The city-states of the south struggle to recover from the collapse of their paradigms at the hands of demagogues and tyrants. To the north, the Nords have finally left behind the horrors of Fimbulwinter and the rule of the Jotnar, and have started expanding from their shattered realms. They turn their covetous eyes to the rich lands of the south, lusting for revenge for their murdered gods. With mankind far from the glory and might of its old dominion, the enigmatic Spires exert their power for the first time in eons. Shedding millennia of custom and practice, the merchant princes seek the wealth of the lesser races, in an effort to break the stranglehold of power the Directorate and the Sovereign House exert. As the vicious games of these elders spill into the mortal realm, misery and warfare spread like a disease from their domains. While the clamor of war spreads, the wisest amongst those living fear the rising of the Dwagum. Deep in their holds they hear the clamor of battle approaching, and feel the pulse quicken in their veins. They are the eldest disciples of war. The last time their hosts marched into battle, the eternal reign of dragons came to an end in a conflict so violent the land itself withdrew. Far to the east, darkness is gathering. The fearless tribes hurl themselves against the claustering gates as their lands shrink. Their warbands are unable to contend with the ancient evil that stirs in what once was the heartland of the Old Dominion. All right, so that's the real basic outline. So basically, there's been some cataclysm. Humanity is definitely on the back foot, and it is a setting that, while there still definitely are cities, there's still definitely politics and things involved, but a lot of this place is currently in a sense of turmoil, a sense of upheaval, and currently there are 5 factions with a 6th one that is right around the corner. The 5 factions involved, we have the 100 Kingdoms. The 100 Kingdoms are your human faction. Your primary human faction. Your knights and squires and heavy cavalry, archers and spearmen and pikemen and militia and holy zealots from the church. This is where you're going to get your most typical rank and file style human army. I do not play 100 Kingdoms, but I have played against 100 Kingdoms, and I have seen them played many times. They are a quintessential fantasy force. You've got blocks of relatively inexpensive infantry, plus elite infantry like heavily armored knights on foot. You've got lots of different lots of different ways to bring aerial support, like range support to the field. You have chapter mages and priests that you can help use to bolster morale. But I would say the biggest strength of the 100 Kingdoms, kind of as an overview, are the cavalry. There's squires that run around on horses. There are regular knights that run on horses, and then there are the different orders. And the different orders, like the Order of the Sword, the Order of the Crimson Tower, Order of the Dawn. they all have different aspects to them. Like one might be particularly swift and agile. One might be, we are the tank slowly crawling up the field until it's time to charge our giant horses into battle. It is. I think the Hundred Kingdoms is a deceptively cool force. A lot of times it's very easy to just kind of hand wave over the humans and be like, whatever. They are very, very cool, and I won't lie, in a game where for the most part you're probably going to have 7 to 8 units, 6 to 7 if you build them up like real blocky instead of numerous, maybe a monster or two. The Hundred Kingdoms are very cool at being decidedly center of the line average. And I don't mean that in power level. I don't mean that in like stats or anything. But I mean like the concept. You've got good infantry. You've got some cheap infantry that are probably plentiful. You've got elite infantry that are going to hit like a ton of bricks but are going to be expensive. You've got cavalry that are more expensive or more like lightly armored but are very fast and maneuverable for like taking objectives and things. And then you've got these giant like walls of barded knights that can just smash anything that gets in your way. I think while in any fantasy game it's very easy to be like, man, where's my monsters? Where are my giant monsters? Why doesn't the Hundred Kingdoms have a giant war machine or something like that? That's not the concept really behind the Hundred Kingdoms. The Hundred Kingdoms are these humans that have been put on the back foot that are trying to reclaim and reconnect their empire into something that's not just going to get swallowed up by everyone around them. So they really have focused on the basics, and they do the basics very, very well. Next up on the faction list is the Spires. The Spires are effectively, if you want to do like a fantasy trope, they are the armies belonging to the elves. So the elves in the Conquest world, they go by a different name. Let's see if I can find that name real quick. They are the Elders. Oh no, they are called the Spires. They're named after the giant towers that they live in. But they are these super powerful elder creatures that aren't about to risk their lives on the battlefield. So what they do is that they clone life to use as soldiers, and sometimes they make these sort of biological war suits, and then they just kind of magically and telepathically pilot these monsters into battle. And by monsters, I am not kidding. These are, if you're looking for an army that does not look like anything else you've ever played, it's not your stereotypical undead. It's not, oh, here's my Tyranids from 40k. No. These are super weird. They've got units that are, some of the units are just terrible in combat, but they're designed to explode when they die. Like they're just like, we have swords and spears and we're not that great, but when you pop, I leak acid blood on you. They have one of the only, the Mimetic Assassin is one of the only characters in the game that can freely, like ignoring other rules, just bounce from unit to unit to unit to unit, and like always strikes first in a combat, even like a duel between characters. It's really, they're very, very cool. They're very, very interesting. And they also have some of the most unique looking critters. Their big monster, like their big centerpiece monster, is called the Abomination. At least that's the one that's currently out. And it's got like 4 legs, 2 primary arms, 2 secondary arms, like a head that looks like it has like a mask, and then a head. It's super cool. And of course, it's a ton of combat potential. It gets into combat and it smashes things dead. The Spires are a very, very cool concept. They have flying infantry. No one else has that. Basically they just made the Spire themselves. They made these weird drones that had wings, and they're like, all right, go. You know, like they're just very very cool, and they also don't have any magic, whereas like the Hundred Kingdoms and the Dwagom have actual like sorcerers and wizards and stuff. The Spires don't really have magic. They have these cool bio boosts, these bio mutation things that they can do and trigger and add to their units. It's a very very neat army, and in the games that I've seen the Spires play, it is very easy to discount troops that your guys can just walk through. Whatever. I don't have much to hurt from you, or I don't have much to fear from you. I'm just gonna let you. I'm gonna let you smoosh me. I'm gonna let you smash against the wall of my armor, and then you start fighting them, and then like this other character goes, "Oh yeah, hey, all of you ignore 2 points of armor because now you're covered in acid." Like that's what the Spires are good at. They're clever, they're crafty. They also are one of the only units, or one of the only armies in the game so far that can, with a certain way to build your force, that can freely recreate some of their fallen units, which is very very cool. So yeah, the Spires are just very very neat. And again, I mentioned the brute drones, the giveaway codes for the shows. That's for the Spires. So if you get an opportunity to take a look and check them out, you should. They're cool. And for the people who have been part of Conquest from the very beginning, the Spires are one of the 2 armies in the main starter set. So you might have there may be more Spire players out there than some of the others. Next up is the Dwagom. So the Dwagom, that's actually the faction that I currently play. They are the equivalent to this world's dwarves. But they are not dwarves by any stretch. They are effectively the creations, the servant creations once made by the almost godlike dragons of this land. The dragons made the Dwagom as kind of their servants, as kind of their minions, as kind of their henchmen, their eyes out in the world. And so that the Dwagom have a very deep affinity for stone and fire and magma. And at some point, as you do when you make your own race of battle-ready minions, eventually they turn against you. And the Dwagom eventually overthrew their shackles from the dragons, killed most of them, enslaved some of them, used some of them to create an entire subspecies called drakes that they actually use in combat. They also, the Dwagom, have some ingenious, like weird high-end technologies for a fantasy game. Bazookas on the Fireforged, for instance. It's a very very cool army, and their primary primary strengths and weaknesses. They are a tank of an army. They can take a beating. Their armor values are very high. The morale tends to be very high. They have traits that allow them to ignore other people's, armor piercing and stuff. It's the Dwagom are definitely a close, I wouldn't say close combat, a brutal fighter's army. They are going to get in there, whether it's short range with their ballista crossbows or the Fireforged bazooka cannons, or if it's just going to be a bunch of thanes with axes. They are good at sticking in and staying in. The Nords, so the other human faction, the other current human faction in Conquest is the Nords, and as the name suggests, and as the story said, the Nords come from up north, where the Jotun used to, the ice giants used to run. Basically, they conquered everything up there, and the Nords were definitely a less powerful minority, not in quantity but in power, in that area, and then the eternal winter ended, and the Nords were able to buck up against the Jotun and kind of gain their independence, and a lot of them moved south or started moving south to more food, more resources, places that they could pillage. It was they're very like Celtic Viking in feel, but they also got some very cool monster units aside from giants of different breeds. But they also have the Ogre, which are basically ogres. They've got trolls that regenerate annoyingly every turn, bringing their guys back from the dead. They've got different kinds of wolves and beasts. It is a very like a low tech, wild side of humanity style army. They're very cool. One of my close friends plays Nords religiously, and it's very neat to see them in action and see them function as they tend to be lighter armored, but they're fast and they've got all these cool tricks and things that they can do. Plus, you might not be concerned with the oh, these guys only wear leather armor, I could pick them off with my bows. Or I could try and put a couple wounds on that giant before it comes and smashes into me and destroys units at a time. The Nords have access to some wintry magic, but it is pretty far and few between. It's not the kind of thing like the Dwagum have got spells all over the place. It's the depending on who's in your army, the 100 Kingdoms can use chapter mages. It's not like that. It's a different style. The last of the current factions is the Wadroon. In the story, it talked about the tribes from they coming from the west, east. The Wadroon are the tribes from the east. That's this world's orcs. They are a tribal society, very almost like Aztec in feel. A lot of throwing weapons, a lot of personal prowess in combat, some shamanic magics. But then the thing that probably draws most people to the Wadroon, dinosaurs. The Wadroon have domesticated dinosaurs, and they've got guys that ride raptors. They've got a freestanding apex predator, a T-Rex. And I know that there are more dino units left to be designed and left to come out. Man, because of my eye. From the Wadroon. And I think it's also neat to see just in some of the storyline stuff that makes them different from fantasy orcs or Lord of the Rings orcs. Is the Wadroon are also matriarchal, almost like a pack of hyenas. There's a matriarch. There's a woman Wadroon in charge, and that's a very interesting. It's a very interesting narrative point for me. I like that. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is there's very little information about them yet, aside from what we've been told in like podcasts and in teasers and things like that. And that is the Old Dominion. So the Old Dominion is the 6th faction to join Conquest, our last Argument of Kings. And they are the undead. The Old Dominion is the world of men that has been shattered, that it has been laid waste to, and this faction is the representatives of that empire returned to life, or at least returned to undeath. And a lot of times you'll see an undead faction. It's like, oh, tons of skeletons, tons of zombies, and they're led by a vampire or a mummy or something. That's not the way this works. These are just basically human forces that have been imbued with the power of returning from the grave. They wear heavy armor, they have shields, they don't necessarily use claws and teeth to, tear the soul from the living. No, like they fight like almost, it actually has a very Roman feel to it. Praetorians with heavy shields and swords. You've got different tactical characters that help boost the powers of these units. We don't know a lot about how the Old Dominion's going to work. What we do know is that there's a couple of units already like ready for pre-order. They've got a thing called a Grave Golem that is this giant construct made of like coffin pieces and skeletons and mausoleum chunks. It's a very, very cool model, and it's a very cool creature. I'm looking forward to finding out what its like official stats are. Speaking of which, I want to say when this episode comes out, shortly thereafter or shortly before, we should be getting the online army list for the Old Dominion. So we get to find out what they do, what they can do, and what kind of forces we're looking for in the future. So I'm sure I'll get to talk a little bit about that next week. In fact, we're running close to time for this week's March to Conquest, but I got to talk about the main factions that we know are in existence. We also know that there are some more coming. There's the forces of the city-states, which is basically a neighboring empire to the 100 Kingdoms that has fallen apart, and they are very like pockets of civilization in this area. And what we've seen as far as teasers go on those guys, they look like, while their rules might still be like a year out, they look like they're going to be very like Greek myth oriented, like maybe a city that's devoted to the Minotaur, or maybe like a giant Cyclops is like their main monster or something. We don't know. They are very much up in the air, but from what we have seen, it is very Greek mythology style as far as the city-states go. And then the last faction that we know is coming at some point are the Weavers. And the Weavers are effectively the same as the Spires. This is what I was told from the guys at Gen Con, the guys at their booth at Gen Con. They're kind of like the Spires, but instead of living up in their ivory towers and orchestrating things, the Weavers are more like hands-on, let's make the world better with our biosciences instead of trying to conquer it. And I'll be interested to see how what comes out of them too. The Spires have always interested me, but the concept of the Weavers, if what I was told is close to where they end up, I'm excited about them too. So let's go ahead and wrap up. We just kind of covered the quick lore, a very quick overview on the lore, getting you excited about the factions. Next week we will talk more about how the game actually plays, how you set up an army, how thus far, how you make forces, how the forces are built, and kind of how the game itself plays. So until then, please be safe. Do me a favor, get vaccinated, get boosted, whatever, wear a mask if you have to, but be safe, be happy, and above all other things, like, share, comment, subscribe. You thought I was going to say something else. No, so like this video, share, comment, subscribe, tell your other friends that play Conquest that this month is going to be March to Conquest. We're going to be giving away brute drones, and if you want to be part of that weekly drawing, make sure that you are a subscriber and make sure you comment below. Again, enjoy yourselves. Rule number 1 is have fun. Go out there, please, please, please enjoy yourself and play some games. We'll see you next week.